welcome everybody to this session. Today we will talk a little bit about the CommuniCity technical framework and ethics. We will try to introduce the tools that we develop in CommuniCity and that we encourage you to work on during your pilots. So, in general, this is what we are going to discuss, CommuniCity's framework. I will give you an overview, and then somebody from OWASP will talk a little bit about the MIMS. Koen from CVC and Edgard, they will talk a little bit about the toolbox and give us some demos as well. I will guide you through the CommuniCity sandbox, and then at the end, from our ethic board, we will talk a little bit about the AI ethics and AI Act considerations that you need to take care during the pilot process. So this framework is just to provide a set of assets, specifications, software approaches to support the design and development of the innovative solution. So these assets can enable interoperability from one city to another or from one user to another, whether you're using the same infrastructure or different infrastructure, and it will encourage replicability during the application. So it includes the MIMS, which is specifications and APIs. It includes the toolbox and include the sandbox. So in general, this is a diagram showing what is being developed inside the CommuniCity. If you're a user, a developer, or a pilot team, you mainly are doing some services, apps, platforms, or anything like that, which is an open source solution, and you're targeting one specific city or target group. If you use the MIMS, which is shown in the diagram, it will help you to, which is something reusable and already developed by OWASP. It will help you use the same standards, the same APIs, which then you could test in our sandbox that we created, thus giving you the capability to deploy it not in only one city or one target group, but you could replicate it in several cities. This is helpful because then you will not have to develop again another app. It will be just like one app or one platform that could be used alongside different cities, which also will encourage your business, company, or pilot to grow a little bit more. Now I will share with you how to access our website and how to get the information needed for the technical framework. So I will share my screen for the CommuniCity's website. So this is the homepage of CommuniCity's website. If you go to third open call, underneath it you have the technical framework. Of course, you have other options like Q&A if you have any specific questions about the technical framework as well. But going to the framework, you have the general overview. This is the diagram about the specifications and API that I just showed. Then you have all the description, you have more details about the MIMS, you have a little bit more about OWASP as well. Here is one of our deliverables. You could find it here. The CommuniCity toolbox. When you want to use the toolbox, you could find it here, and my colleagues will run a demo using this. Then the CommuniCity toolbox, you could enter it also from here and test it. You also have the support, you have the email where you could visit us, and you could share whatever concerns you have or doubts to us. And here at the end of the page, you have my email. So if you want something, you could contact me as well directly. So I will leave the floor to my colleagues now. Koen and Edgard, please can you share with us about the toolbox?
So as Adib was saying, what we did in our project, in our work package, we developed a way to interact with the MIMS. And the MIMS are a very important tool to make your applications more reusable. So if you develop an application for one city, as Adib was saying, the MIMS is a way to replicate the same solution in a new city or a new environment. And in order to do so, OWASP defined a number of MIMS. So in this diagram, we have MIM 1 until MIM 6, how to say. Maybe the MIMS are developed until number 9, but in practice, the MIMS that are really developed and the MIMS that you can really use in practice are MIM 1, 2, and 3. And as the MIMs are a bit difficult to get used to it, what we did is we implemented them in our toolbox. So when used in our toolbox, you automatically are compatible with the MIMs. So that's, I think, a great way to use our toolbox. In order to do so, in order to get rid of the boundaries to get started with the MIMs, what we did is we provided 3 ways to get started with the MIMs. So for the more technical guys, what we did is we directly created a GitHub. So if you go there, so we have the source code of our material. So over here you have the detailed implementation of the applications of our demos that we developed. Maybe it's better to start with our toolbox in another way. And the other way can be the use of the sandbox. But even easier is to use the web page in which we provide direct access to our demos. So that is what I'm going to do now. So I directly click over here. So then we hop to the CommuniCity toolbox. So and what we have over here is an implementation of 7 demos based on artificial intelligence. And all demos, they incorporate a way to interact with the MIMs. So especially they implement MIM number 1 and they respect MIM number 2, which is the data model. So let me just run some demos right now. So if I want to do a face detection application, what I can do is put some faces over here. And I can then run the demo. So the objective of this demo is just to detect the faces in this image and provide the details of the locations of this information in my image. So the input is the image and the output is this JSON file. And the important thing about this JSON file is that it's compatible with a data model of MIM2. So over here, what we have is just for every image for every face in this image, we have the coordinates of the face. And what we did, we added some extra features for the other application that we already incorporated also in our toolbox. So this demo is just to simply find the faces in this image. So we draw the images with the faces, and then we provide the information of the locations of the image. I can do another one, and maybe some emotions. So I will upload an image of a happy woman. So and then we'll do the prediction. So now I again detect the face, but moreover, I detected the emotion of this woman. And this is another feature in our JSON file. So over here we can find the description. It is the happiness. So we detect this facial expression with our AI algorithm. We can do another one. So what we want to do now is to detect the object in this image. So the algorithm will detect the objects and provide some information about these objects. So again, we detect the cars in this image with some percentage of probability, and also the dog in the car over here. So again, we have more or less the same structure, which is a JSON file, which is compatible with MIM number 2, which corresponds to the data models. So in the end, if you want to set up or want to create an application that is compliant with MIM number 2, you have to set up a data model that is compliant with MIM number 2. In order to do so, you just can copy one of our examples and modify it a bit to make sure that it's compatible with this MIM number 2. Then I can do the final one. Just if you want to do a pose detection, for example, of a tennis player, and do the prediction. So again, we detect the pose of this person in the image, and again in this JSON file, we have again the information of where the person of this in this image is, the confidence that we have in the results, and the different positions of the different body parts, so to say. The right eye, the left eye, the ears, the whatever. All the information that is depicted over here. So I think this is the best way to get used to get a touch of the MIMS, just to get familiar with this with these concepts. But then what we have is this more detailed documentation. So you have basically three ways to interact with our toolbox. Number one is the one that I just showed as a web page. It's a very easy to use web page, and you can try with your own images in order before you get started implementing your specific case. So before implementing your specific case, you can do some play around a bit with our environment with some images that you might have in order to find out whether this application is suitable for you. So the next level is to use the APIs. So you can install the software and then create an application yourself by using and then calling our demos with an API. And finally is for the more technical developers is use our software as a Python library, just using the GitHub that I showed you before. And also what we have is also to play around a bit with our environment are these Python notebooks. So you have three examples that you can use just to play around a bit with our software. The good thing about these notebooks is that you don't have to install anything. So, for example, if you want to use the Google Colab environment, you can just upload one of these notebooks and just play around with the software that we developed. And basically, this is what I wanted to explain.
Okay, thank you very much, Koen. So just a quick note. So even if you're using different AI tools, you could also introduce it into the toolbox. We could help you with that. So in general, the MIMs are important. The toolbox, if you're using the same tools API or something, you could also use it. If you have a different solution, you could always contact us to help you even introduce it to the toolbox, since it's an open source and we are trying to grow it more and have it open for everybody. Now I will share with you a little bit more about the sandbox. So as Kun showed you, you could access it directly from CommuniCity's webpage, but this is like general information about the use of the sandbox and what is it for. So it's a cloud environment to test the compliance of your services that you created inside your pilot. It also facilitates and accelerates the learning curve on how to use the toolbox. It offers a safe environment also to test your solution, since you have some data over there, so you could play around and do whatever you want in a safe environment. It also validates the compliance, so if you're compliant with the CommuniCity specifications. This is a quick diagram to show you how you could access the sandbox and how we could monitor and manage your solution as well. In addition, we have a support system, which is the service desk. You could request that, and we could help you using it. So the service desk, it's something already in the CommuniCity's webpage. You could check it out. And here's an online documentation for some of the doubts if you have. It's already over there. In general, this is it, and we will carry on with the MIMS and.
Hi, my name is Michael Morquin, and I'm going to take you through the Open and Agile Smart City MIMS. So what are the MIMS? Minimal interoperability mechanisms, and the aim of the MIMS is to achieve interoperability of data, systems, and services between cities and suppliers around the world. I'm going to take you very quickly through what, when, why, how, and who related to the MIMS. So let's think about what the MIMS are about. If you imagine you're going traveling, when you go traveling, you plan your travel before you go and when you're in the new city. And the way to do that when you're in the new city is to download the local app. So the local app will help you to find where everything is, to find out which is the best mode of transport, potentially even to pay for that transport and so on. But the problem, of course, is that you already have an application on your phone that you use in the local area. So why do you have to download another application which you need to learn how to use when you go to another city. And the problem is because these different applications are based on slightly different ways of handling data that are used by the different cities. And so they're not interoperable. They can't exchange information. They can't work in a consistent way together. So this is the key issue. How can we make data and the way we handle data as a city interoperable so that data can work together and share information in a seamless way without any extra effort from the end users? So an app that works for you in one city will act for you in exactly the same way in another city. So what can work together? It's obviously the data in a way, but that data is what underpins the different services, applications, and solutions that you need as a user from the place you're in. And it can do that across different domains. So transport, housing, shopping, history, all the different domains. It can bring the information together to enable these different issues to work together seamlessly. And that's what we're trying to do, or we're working at with the Open and Agile Smart Cities and the Living in the EU minimal interoperability mechanisms, where we're aiming to establish a minimal level of interoperability, which will be fairly easy to implement, but will be sufficient to allow the different applications to work together in a consistent and fairly easy to manage way. So when, as a city, do you want to use the MIMS? Well, there are three potential situations mentioned here. One is if you're wanting to procure new technology solutions, but still keep the same capabilities and data. For instance, a new customer relationship management tool, where you need to access and use the same data that you're using with the previous CRM tool, but using the new tool to manage it in the way that new tool works. Another way that you might need it is if you're working with one technical solution and you want to access and exchange data with organizations using different technical solutions. So for instance, if you're wanting an application that provides information about when the level of air quality drops, you may need to get information from the National Environment Agency, which has maybe different ways of handling the data, and you need to subscribe to that notification, and that notification then can be provided straight to you so that you know when things have changed. And then the final example of when you might want to use the minimal interoperability mechanisms is when you want to build and use interoperable solutions, which for instance, if you've got a startup that's building a mobility solution, you want to make sure that you can use MIMS that will ensure that that solution will be able to integrate with all the different relevant providers and make sure that the information can be shared in machine readable format. So why would you want to do it? Well, one reason, of course, is because of sustainability. If you're basing your the way you manage data on minimal interoperability mechanisms, it means that even if you change the solution you're using, the software, the data sources you're using, the different infrastructures and so on, any changes that technology makes and so on, enables your solution to continue to work. And the other thing is, of course, is scalability, because the MIMS can be easily adapted to new environments. If you develop something that works well in one domain, because it's MIMS compliant, it can be easily adapted to another domain. It allows you to connect to new stakeholders with different ways of handling data, and enables you to easily add new data sets to the data ecosystem that you're using. Well, how does it work? The way MIMS are developed is by agreeing a particular objective for what you want to achieve with your data, by breaking that objective down into a number of sub-objectives or capabilities to make sure that you think about all the different things that are needed to be done to enable your objective to be met, then to translate those capabilities into specific requirements that can be addressed in a clear and sufficient way so that you could be sure is that capability being met or not, because it's been specified in a very detailed way. Then to look at the different options that there are to meet those requirements, because there's always a number of different ways it can be done. So this allows you to look at what are the most common ways that cities are using to meet each of those requirements. And having done that, you're able to compare those different mechanisms and to make sure that they can be, you can identify ways to ensure that solutions developed in one mechanism or using another mechanism can be linked together to make interoperable. And then the final thing that we have with the MIMS is compliance and conformance testing, which enables you to test whether or not that MIM is being conformed to in your data ecosystem or by the vendor that's providing you with a new software or infrastructure solution. So who can use MIMS? Well, businesses, citizen communities, policymakers, innovation consultants, all of these can benefit from the MIMS because the MIMS use a common set of standard specifications. Their solutions adhere to the same requirements, and that means it's available for everybody, whatever they are. And that provides a common marketplace that allows you to change supplier, to move to a different city, to a different business, to a different policymaker, and make sure that everything works seamlessly together. Let's think a bit about the MIMS journey. They're developed by open and agile smart cities and communities, and also by the Living in the EU members as MIMS Plus. The MIMS emerged from early projects where cities were beginning to experiment with using data from IoT to develop applications such as smart parking. And they provided a common way that cities could use to collect and manage the data so that applications developed for one city could be easily ported to another. The challenge is that cities are using data in an increasingly sophisticated way in many different areas of managing city life. And as the use of data within cities and communities become more sophisticated, then the MIMS need to continue to evolve. So we're changing, not in terms of changing the absolute foundation, but what we're doing is, whereas previously there have been 10 MIMS at different levels of maturity, some of which have been used very widely to support data sharing ecosystems. But what we're doing now is to think about these in a more systematic way to make sure that we're covering all the key issues and make sure that all of the different MIMS work well together. And so we've got a new framework in place where we look at two different types of MIMS. We look at foundational MIMS, which provide generic data interoperability issues. So looking at how you access data, represent the data, interlink the data, secure the data, and share the data, and collaborate with it. And then we've got application MIMS, which are issues that are related to specific application areas, such as how do you manage personal data in a way that allows the citizen, the individual, to be in control of it? How do you manage geospatial data and link that to other kinds of data? How do you develop local digital twins and ensure that those local digital twins are interoperable with each other, and so on? The MIMS that are particularly relevant to CommuniCity are, of course, the foundational MIMS, which provide the generic requirements for data sharing, but also the MIM on personal information management. Now, the foundational MIMS are still being worked on. It's not that they're different from the traditional set of MIMS, but it's just that we've rearranged some of the requirements and added a few others to make sure that everything's covered. But because they're still very much under development, it probably makes sense to use the older formats as these requirements are still valid. So if you want to look at the MIMS in the older format, you can see them in Living in the EU Group 7 Commitments MIMS Plus version 7 2024. So you could search for MIMS Plus version 7 in the Living in the EU website. And you can see there MIM 1 on context information management, which ensures comprehensive and integrated use, sharing and management of data across different solutions and purposes. You can look at MIM 2 on data models, which covers data models in various different verticals to enable interoperability for applications and systems. You can look at MIM 3, which is the ecosystem transaction management layer that allows stakeholders to provide data along with relevant information about its content and quality and any terms and conditions for use, and for people to find that data and to demonstrate they're willing to comply with the conditions for the use of that data. And then, as we mentioned, MIM 4, that focuses on personal information management to allow users to control which data sets or attributes they want to share with solution, application, or service providers under transparent circumstances to enable trust between different parties to be maintained. So in short, minimal interoperability mechanisms, the MIMS, are universal tools for achieving interoperability of data, systems, and services between cities and suppliers around the world. They're based on a set of baseline specifications and references related to the different cities and communities that are part of the OASC network, and they're vendor neutral and technology agnostic, meaning that anybody can use them and integrate them in existing systems and offerings. Specification and API are obviously linked to that. They represent the logical and functional specifications of the interoperability components of the architecture of the MIMS. The scope of this specification is to provide common standards and building blocks to the developers that will enable and develop applications for the different cities during the project open calls. The basic pillars of these specifications are the ones that are represented by the OASC MIMS. The CommuniCity specifications are included in the deliverable D4.1, technical architecture, and APIs. Thank you very much.